excited to kick off the Years Ahead webinar today. We're going to be covering a live version of the Years Ahead report that we recently released. And so just to go ahead and jump right in, I'll start with some introductions. And Kayla, I'll let you introduce yourself first.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Kaylah Bell, the Influencer Marketing Manager at Savage X Fenty. I've been working in fashion and beauty over the last 6 years. And outside of that, I'm just your regular girl from Sacramento.
Amazing. And I'm Jamir. I'm a senior client partner here at CreatorIQ. I'm based in Philadelphia on the East Coast, and I'm here to share exciting insights from our clients as well. So just to give an overview of what we'll cover today, we'll talk about product differentiation and how to break through the noise by having a product that is super unique. We'll then talk about brand-to-brand activations. So what are the best ways for brands to build relationships with each other in order to see success? Then we'll talk about leveraging internal creators, so those within your own company that are able to speak about the brand and have a passion for your brand. And we will end this with the future of creator marketing. So talk a little bit about AI and what's upcoming. Cool. So first, we're talking through product differentiation and ways to break through the noise. I'll start off with this quote where you said, "We stand out from the crowd by working with creators who are unapologetically themselves." So talk to me a little bit about that.
Oh, absolutely. This entire brand was founded on diversity and inclusion. And for me and my team, it's so important for us to open up a seat at the table for everyone to see themselves. And, I'm really thankful that we've been able to extend so many opportunities to creators, even within our own internal organization of people that we work with. It's so fun to work with people that are just excited about the brand, but are just badass or themselves. And that's what it's all about. That's what always makes, a creator stand out in the noise.
Amazing. Yeah, and I think, we talked about this a little bit previously, but working with folks that are unapologetically themselves and also making sure that there's an inclusive community, it means that everyone is represented, right? And everyone can see themselves in the brand. There's a brand that I work with. They have a slogan, "For everybody with a body," right? Yeah. So because everyone, can utilize this product, it's not just segmented for one community. So I think that that's fantastic.
Absolutely. We are for everybody.
Amazing. And then let's talk a little bit about product quality. This was one of the insights that we found in the new 2020 trends report, is that creators, one of the number one deciding factors on a brand to work with is their product quality. So it's not just like, oh, we'll work with the brand because they have a big name. The product actually has to be good as well. So let's talk a little bit about influencer fatigue or even influencer maturity, right? And then also how we can create authentic relationships and make sure that we're prioritizing value there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think initially when I started in my career, influencers were really excited at every opportunity, especially during the pandemic. Everyone was at home. Influencers were creating content on their couch. Everyone got really creative, and brands also needed a way to get visibility since we were inside our houses. And so now coming out of, the pandemic, you're starting to see a lot more influencers be very picky about the partnerships that they're taking on. It's not just about the brand name. It's about what they stand for. It's about how they feel about the product. And, for us as a team, we're not just in communicating with talent over email, we're also putting ourselves in the room with talent, getting actual feedback about what they like, what we could do better, how they want us to show up for them even better. And it helps us create a very loyal fan base of talent that are excited to work with us. Every time we have a new collaboration, they're like, "I'm so excited." They're in the comments, they're talking about it. But they also have a relationship with us, and that helps so much. So I'm thankful that our team has been able to kind of break through the noise in that sense. And like, although there is that influencer fatigue of influencers maybe not wanting to accept as many partnerships and being, a little bit more strategic on the things that they do accept, they also are all ears when it comes to people that just genuinely care about them. And it's not just a transactional opportunity.
Yeah. I think so often brands are really focused on consumer fatigue, right? And making sure that the consumer isn't overwhelmed. But thinking about like your community is your top consumer. It's right there, the top level of your consumer community are those influencers, those that are willing to share something or say something about your brand. They love it so much. So it's really important to consider that fatigue as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And then just talking through creating authentic relationships. So when it comes to building those true relationships with influencers, ensuring that they get a feel for your product, right? They understand the product line. What are those ways that you build relationships and keep product at the front?
So, a really fun thing that we always do is when we have a fun launch coming up, like last year, we launched into Savage X Fenty Sport. We didn't just go directly to influencers to gift them product. We also went to communities that they're in and community members that have a business or, some sort of group that they put together that is focused on fitness. And so we sat there with them, we did the hikes, we did the R&B yoga, and we also invited our talent into these spaces, but we also made it community focused. So that really helps us create an authentic presence, for influencers and within our community, but also making sure that like anytime we're launching these campaigns, the things that we do are an extension of that campaign. So this for February, for Valentine's Day, we had Savage Confessions, and Ree was a huge part of this campaign, and you saw all these clips and glimpses of her opening up these really cute notes. And then we extended that into our influencers and our paid collabs, and it helped us all come together in this really dope way. And those are the ways that we're able to create that authentic value as an extension of our campaign.
Amazing. And then a little bit of a maybe different framing on this last piece about prioritizing value. I'd love to know on the brand side and then also for influencers, what metrics are you kind of prioritizing for influencers? And then what are the values that influencers are looking for when it comes to you as a brand, right? Are they thinking about, is this a sustainable brand? Or are they thinking about, is this a brand that, is it as inclusive as you are?
Yeah, for us, on the inside, it's always obviously EMV. EMV is always the metric that we're looking at. We love a great EMV, but honestly, for myself, it's about how I can make people feel and what my authentic interaction is with them, and actually putting myself and my team in the room with these people and getting that real time feedback. There's nothing like that. We've had a few retail events, and we bring talent in to, shop the collections that we just dropped and, just talk to them. It's all about really building relationships. That's what this world is about. And like, there's only so much that data can show you. You also have to lean into that human to human connection. So I'm excited. I know we'll probably talk about that in a little bit too.
Yeah, actually, you're leading us right where we're going. Talking about brand to brand activation. So we talked about how brands work with creators, thinking about how brands work together. I know that Savage X Fenty has done a partnership with SoulCycle. So just to start off again with a quote, over communication can cost you. Posting on socials, post on socials to organically gain attention. So this is certainly an attention grabbing post, right? This is something that people see and they want to talk about, they want to engage with, they want to like, they want to share. So we'll talk about, again, building community with those brand to brand relationships. Usually we see B2B, brand to brand, or business to business, but we'll unpack B2P. It's not a typo, something exciting that Kaylah will share. And then we'll also talk about how to reach out to other brands and make sure that you're fostering those connections.
Beautiful. Well, like we were talking about before, it's all about building community. So I know you had mentioned like the whole B2P, and like usually we'll see B2B, but there is an element of like our program that is very focused on business to business, but there's also a big part that it's about community. So it's about business to people.
Amazing. Yeah, and I think on that, best ways to build those relationships. So when you have partnerships with other brands, how does that typically come about? Is there, you all know each other from the industry, or that someone reaches out? How do you best receive that outreach, and then how have you best outreach to other brands?
Yeah. So from a business perspective and collaborating with different brands, it's all about, you'd be surprised how many people are excited to actually just work together. We're all going through it. We're going through the budget cuts. We're trying to figure out ways to, get out in the community and get people to hear about our brands. And people are really excited to just tap in and, do things that they've never done before. And, those partnerships with SoulCycle, Walk Good LA, R&B yoga, those all came organically just from us networking and, connecting with people on LinkedIn and being like, how can we support you? How can we come together so you also have visibility as a business? And, it's very important for myself and for my team that we give visibility to businesses that have a bigger name, but also small businesses.
Yes.
And that is so important. Like there's so much value that we can add if we partner together. And there's so much value that they can add to us. Like it's not always in the name. It's not always in, how big this brand is. It's what it does for other people.
I love that. I love, lifting kind of, as you're rising as well, helping to lift other brands.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then just around building community within brands, I think that you also really called this out, is that similar to the ways that influencers are encouraged to network with each other and network with brands, that it's important for brands to be doing that same work, right? Spending time with other brand partners, building those brand partnerships in order to see those activations be successful.
Oh, absolutely. It is so important for creators to continue putting themselves out there, and they're getting better at it. I'm getting LinkedIn requests, I love the Instagram follows or, even the cold emails. But something that is also super impactful is for the creator to create the content that they would like to, see for Savage or for any other brand that they want to work with, and creating it in their tone of voice, but as an extension of what the brand itself is already creating. And that will always get someone's attention because it's not just us, looking through the tags or looking through the mentions. Executives are looking through those things. The social media team is looking through those things. Acquisition teams are looking through content. Everyone is trying to figure out where people are. So the more you put yourself out there, at some point you will for sure be picked on. So don't stop doing that.
Amazing. Love that advice. Um, awesome. Well, we'll push ahead and we'll talk through internal creators. There is a Savage X Fenty store in my local mall. So, there are definitely some folks that are representing your brand on the day to day, talking to customers. We'll talk about how to leverage those folks as creators. So, everyone is an influencer. This is a great quote from you. And everyone has something special about them. So how can we identify employees that are adding value, build up that retail presence, and then also involving employees in campaign shoots, things like that?
Yeah. Well, for us, I will say we have an amazing talent acquisition team for our retail teams, and they're very tapped into who we are as a brand and who we think is a great addition to our retail teams. And anytime you walk into a Savage X Fenty store, like you feel like you're walking into our world. The music is going great. The lights are on. There's all this great photography. You see these different images of, campaign imagery, and it's really an experience walking into our stores. And so it's really important for us to work with retail employees that are an extension of that experience and, come in there also being unapologetically themselves. And I think that's the beauty of Savage X Fenty is that we, work with people that just love being themselves. And I love that I'm able to be myself in this organization. And luckily, I've also been casted into some campaigns. I just did a campaign with Adam Selman, and that was like a dream come true. And if you don't know Adam Selman, like definitely Google. I died. But it was really fun. And like we're always, me and my team, we're always in the rooms together. We're always coming up with ideas together, and I think it's so important for everyone on this call to remember you have such special people in the room with you. Use them, use their brains, get as much, collaborate as much as you can with those people, because it's so important for everyone to see themselves and have a seat at the table. And that's how you're going to continue to keep people on your teams and wanting to work there, is that if you open up space for them to be them, it's not going to feel like work all the time.
Love that. Yeah, I think in order to, create a piece of content about the place that you work, you have to love what you do, right? You have to really love your job. And I think locking into, that community internally, that's already really passionate about the brand, and allowing them, giving them a little bit of ability. We've seen some experiences recently where some brands have said, like, we don't necessarily want, internal creators creating content in the fast food space. And, another brand said, hey, we'd love for you to do this because we see the value in it. I also have some clients that work not only in the standard retail space, but also in the outlet retail space. Just understanding like the different communities that there are within retail. So they have influencers at all of those levels, like their flagship, top stores in Fifth Ave, and then also into that outlet level. So really understanding like these are the people that talk to our customers every day. And so it's important to leverage their expertise because they really understand our customers from a different lens or from a different perspective than maybe we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, we're on the corporate side and they're really on the day-to-day selling these items. So it's important that we give them their flowers too.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Well, awesome. We'll talk now about the future of the creator economy. So this is really exciting. I'll start off with the topic on everyone's mind. It's like the buzzword I hear maybe 5 times a week at least. But AI, artificial intelligence. Are you all using AI, or do you have any kind of AI integrations within the work that you do today?
We're not really tapped into AI, but I'm down. I'm down to learn more. So take us away with what you have to share. I'd love to know.
Yeah, I'll run through just a few high level ways that brands are able to leverage AI. We actually did a roundtable at our Connect LA event in October. We're doing another, sorry, shameless plug, Connect in Europe next week. So anyone who hasn't registered. But we talked about different ways that, influencer marketers can realistically use AI in your day-to-day work. And so one of those is writing briefs. So we're wanting to reach out to an influencer. We want to give an intro on this brand. Here's a little information about our brand, and having AI write that brief. Also, again, different types of outreach templates. So this is how we usually reach out to say welcome or hello, and having AI either generate that for you or update that for you. And then within our tools internally in CreatorIQ, the platform does support a feature, what's called semantic search, which uses AI to not have to filter a ton and say, oh, we want to filter into this age range, we want to filter into, but we can simply say, we're looking for moms in LA who love dogs. And AI is bringing that all together, finding those proper creators for you.
I love that. And honestly, I feel like that'll save a lot of time. I'm always deep in a brief.
Yeah, exactly. And this piece, I think it's a little controversial. So maybe have a separate conversation about it. But AI content generation, that was a big topic during the roundtable. Brands using AI generated content, or creators who become kind of AI creators, right? They're creating utilizing AI. So I think that that's really cool. I think one of the things that I had shared then is that within every aspect of the creator economy, even if we go
Oh,
back as far as like MySpace. There was always, someone in the creator economy. We see influencers today that rise to the top. And I
mhm.
think we'll see that with AI. There, will be creators that leverage AI a lot in their content, and we'll see, them maybe rise to the top of AI content generation. But it'll be an interesting topic to keep an eye out for.
Yeah,
Um,
that is super interesting. And I am interested to see how the AI content generation kind of takes a shift, because I know there's been some
mhm.
conversations about how that works, especially for certain people of color, and like how, the kind of content it brings up. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for them to dig really deep and like hit the nail on the head so we can really utilize AI to the best of its ability.
Yes, one of the things that we did find, so any brands that may be in the chat, feel free to chime in, but 66% of brands shared within the trend survey that they are using AI or have in the past year.
Wow.
Um, yeah, 42% using AI for social media captions. So, here's another just quick way that we can get a blurb, and then also using it for general brainstorming. Um, I'll be honest, I use it a ton just to say, like, I have a long list. Can you sort this the best ways for me? And can you like do a couple of things? So it takes out some functions that you might need in the day to day, but it's very helpful.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk
I
about
I love that.
that. Yeah. Um, also, last couple of discussion pieces is just around creators' attitudes changing toward seeding and gifting. We alluded to it a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
and just around creators being a little bit more intentional with those partnerships. How have you seen that shift, maybe from the beginning of time working with influencers to now?
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, this is a business for talent, and it's our responsibility as influencer marketers to support them in that. And there's only so much time that they're going to be tapped into gifting and excited about that. But if they're creating this really, really amazing content for your brand, put them in a social campaign, put them in acquisition, opportunities for email, for, your website. And, we've done a really great job of like, obviously we have our gifting program, but when we see talent that is absolutely killing it, we're like, how can we support you on this journey as a creator so that you can be the best version of yourself and be able to bring in these deals and actually make what you're doing a legitimate business? And, of course, there's always conversation about fees and things like that. And at the end of the day, I know they can get a little crazy, but also make sure that we have to make sure that we're paying creators what they're worth as well, and not taking advantage of them. And that's why there is a lot of that influencer fatigue right now. And I know a lot of brands are probably in the same boat of like sending out product and maybe not receiving as much content back. I think it's going to be really important to figure out how you can be a resource to influencers. And we're also figuring out ways to elevate our program so that we can even be a better resource for influencers as well on our end.
Amazing. Yeah, again, to the theme of maturity overall in the industry, I think that influencers really deeply understand the value that they bring to brands. And so they're thinking, does this brand align with my personal brand, right?
Yeah,
Um, is having a partnership with this brand going to cause like my follower account to go down, right?
right.
Those are things that influencers have to consider because they are brands, of their own at this point. So they've really had to become a lot more intentional about those partnerships.
Absolutely. Like, and I love that. I love that people are being more intentional and being more picky about the things that they want, because I'm the same way, and I encourage creators to do the same thing. Be very intentional, be picky. You do not have to be for everyone, and a brand does not need to be for everyone. We all have our lane, and sometimes you might have to steer out of it just a little bit, but stay in that and really own that and be proud of.
Yeah, agree. I think the name of the game is authenticity, right?
Yes.
That's why people come to influencer content. So for an influencer to say, this isn't necessarily aligned with me, or this isn't the right opportunity for me, I think it shows how authentic that creator actually is.
Absolutely.
Well, just to take us into some takeaways before we do a little bit of Q&A, authentic relationships, alluding to, but really important, building those relationships with creators, and then also building that relationship with brands as well. Putting yourself out there, That is going to be the best way for, again, a brand to notice you, or again, for brand to brand collaboration, the same. Employees are your very best advocates. They are passionate about the brand. They work there. They love the brand. So lean into those advocates and build that community. And then lastly, creators love working with brands that stand for something. And that's exactly why we had Kaylah and the Savage X Fenty team here today, because so many creators have identified that they're a great brand that allows them to be unapologetically themselves, and really brings out, the best of who they are. So thank you so much for joining us, Kaylah.
Thank you. I'm happy people feel that way. That makes me feel so good.
Yeah, amazing. Let's go into just a little bit of Q&A. We'll give everyone a second to see if there's anything that pops up in our chat.
There's a question about B2P, which I love. Should we cover that one?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So, for us, it's like business to people. It's all about business to people and building community there. A lot of times, like you'll see a lot of brands collaborate with other brands. And for us, when we were talking about our Savage X Fenty Sport launch, it was really important for us to do more B2P work. And that means business to people, whether it's, their side hustle and their passion project that they're working on, and working with them on those sorts of things, and tapping into their community that they've already built. And, it's really fun. Like, it's all about building authentic relationships and community with people. It's not always, those really fancy brand collaborations that you'll see. I know there's been a few brands, me and Jamir were talking about it, like Rode and those kinds of things. Sometimes we don't have the budget for those really fancy collaborations. So how can we get with people and actually put ourselves out there authentically that doesn't necessarily cost that much money, but still resonates and makes as big of an impact?
Awesome. I have a question that kind of ties into that, just around seeding and gifting. How does that work internally for Savage X Fenty, or what's your approach to seeding and gifting?
Ooh, well, I will say it's all about being intentional, all about finding the creators that, speak to not only just us and we feel like, damn, they really got it going on. I love their content. I love their style, I love what they bring to the table. And I know at some point there's a point where a brand has to kind of spray and pray. You're new to the game. People don't necessarily know who you are. So you do kind of have to work with a lot of different people. But once you get to a place where you have like this legitimate business that is, making waves, and influencers are also excited to work with you, you also have to be a little bit more intentional about like the creators that you're bringing onto your brand, because you also want to make sure that they're a true representation of where your brand is headed and who they are. And so me and my team, we always talk about it. It's not about quantity, it's all about quality.
I love that. I'm going to send the second question to you also, because I think I know your answer. You mentioned it already. Somewhat similar here, but it said, what do you think of sales as the main KPI for influencer marketing?
Oh, sales. For one, I'm not really a big numbers person, but I don't really like to look at influencers like that. To me, feels so transactional. Like they're not just there to sell your product. They're there to also bring awareness to your brand. So I think a lot of executives are like, how can we, what's the ROI? How can we track this back and things like that? And like influencer marketing is different. It's not just social media. It's not just, acquisition driven, things. It's all, these are real human beings. And I think for influencer marketing, it's more about leaning into that human connection as opposed to seeing how they can like make your brand all this money, because it's going to do that organically if it, the content and the talent resonate with it. And as consumers, we can see when something feels transactional. And it's like, oh, they're just working with this influencer because they have thousands of followers. And like, how does this actually tie back to the brand? It has to authentically tie back to the brand. And so yeah, like I love, obviously, you got to do a little something for the sales, but you also, it's about community. It's about building relationships. So that's what I would say.
Amazing. Yeah, we obviously have in our platform, and you alluded to earlier, EMV, which is earned media value. It's a metric that looks at what is the value of the engagement
Mhm.
on this content. But as you mentioned, I see from Georgina here in the chat as well that influencers are there to add credibility to your brand. Influencers are there to grow awareness about your brand. I love that influencers are allowed to say things about brands, like cool things that the brand can't say, right? You can't say that
Right.
like we're, the best, product in the world. But an influencer can say that about your brand, right? And so that's the
Yeah.
value of working with creators, and it's not necessarily tied to a direct sales objective, but we see that as a result anyway.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a valid point. It is credibility. That's exactly what it is.
Amazing. I think that there's a question here around influencer marketing campaigns for a startup. And I can take that quick. I think the best thing that I advise all of my clients at really the enterprise level, is starting with an objective, starting with a goal. What is it that we want to do? And then how are we going to measure towards that goal? So we want to drive brand awareness. We want to make sure that more people know about this brand. And so we're going to, identify a really big creator. We're going to maybe pay them some money to create a piece of content. And we're going to measure that in EMV, earned media value. So how much value is this content driving? We might also measure in impressions. So
Mhm.
how much visibility is around this content. And so just identifying those targets. What is our goal? Another one, might be desirability. I think is really cool. I think that's where we're seeing a lot of brand trips.
Yeah.
Building desirability for the brand, building up that buzzy, like, "Ooh, we love this," right?
Mhm.
Building that feeling. And so in those cases, when I'm working with clients, a lot of times we're able to lock into desirability as the outcome as a way to get more budget, right?
Yeah.
Because we need to create this buzzy factor, right? That's the objective of this campaign. And in order to do that, it's probably going to cost us a little money, or we have to do all the extras, right? We have to throw everything in because this is our desirability campaign. So I would say, just again, identifying those specific objectives for working with influencers, and then locking into a specific metric that you think is going to help you measure that best.
Yeah. And back to the brand trips, I think a brand that's doing it really well is Topicals. I'm
Yeah,
obsessed. They are like killing it.
of
So
them. And I
like,
love, yeah, that they bought their community in. I saw that it was like the community could choose someone to be included on the brand trip. So often brand trips are like inaccessible, right? Where it's like
uh-huh.
you have to be a huge powerhouse creator in order to be included. But there was some community aspect that they allowed for creators to select based on, I believe, content creation, who could also be included on the trip. So I think, again,
Wow.
really, really great example. Yeah,
Yeah, that's so fun.
amazing. And they're a client of ours.
Mm.
I think we have time for maybe one or two questions. So I'll jump into approach to retaining an influencer or a community of influencers. So, what does retention look like for Savage X Fenty?
Yeah, it goes back to like making sure that once a creator kind of moves out of that gifting phase, to make sure that you're elevating them in other places of the brand. We all work with different teams every day, and we know the opportunities that are available to creators and where we can plug them in. For us, it's like, if a creator is a model outside of being a content creator, how can we, link them up with a casting team and get them in
Mm,
here to maybe be a fit model, like
mhm.
find fun ways to make people's dreams come true. And really get to know who they are so that you can make that happen. Definitely making sure that you're having community activations. It doesn't have to be that big. You know, you guys can do an activity outside of, maybe like for us when we launched, and I keep going back to sport, but when we launched sport, we went out there, we got on the hike, everyone was wearing Savage X Fenty. We had a little tea time after, little goodie bags, and like everyone loved it. And I feel like every time someone comes to one of our events, the feedback that we always get back is that it feels real. It doesn't feel like,
Mm.
super clicky or, what you would typically, I guess, think an influencer event would be. It
Yeah.
feels real.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's exactly what we want to leave creators feeling with any sort of in-person activation. I think that's the great thing about something like a retail store, which we talked about earlier, is that
Yeah.
people get to feel your brand, right? Like they get to physically put their hands on your brand,
Mhm.
aside from just the product. So yeah, those in-person activations, those brand trips, those are all super important.
Yes.
We'll go one more. I have some thoughts on this, but I'll send it to you first. Um,
Mhm.
how do you make a campaign or paid content, just paid activations? How do you make those look genuine, authentic, and trustworthy?
Mm. Well, from a creator perspective, I would say that it's about being intentional about how the creator ties back to the campaign. That will always, take the cake for me when I'm seeing certain things. But I think that's something that I'm excited to see more brands lean into is like that heart. At the end of the day, like we're all humans consuming this content on a day-to-day basis. How can you make it feel relatable to them, to anybody that just happens to see the ad on the phone? And, like I said, you can't necessarily be for everyone, but there's certain emotions and feelings that we can all feel. And the more heart a campaign has, I feel like the bigger it resonates.
I love that. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that brands can do, and I share this with all of my clients, is to give creators, especially with paid content. I know that it's hard because there's outcomes that we want to see, but to give creators guardrails instead of guidelines.
Yes.
So instead of saying, "Here's what you have to create," we need you to show the product within the first 3 seconds. We need you to, kind of spit out all of these different facts about this brand new launch. Rather than focusing on that, there's a reason why you came to this creator. And that's exactly what you were saying. There's a reason why you wanted to work with this creator. And so allowing them to do what they do best, right? And leaning into that and say, here's what you can't do, right? Maybe you can't talk about our competitors, or, you can't say curse words, right? So we can't do those things, but everything else, do what you do. You're a creator and we came to you for that. And I think that's when we tend to see really great success in paid content, when a
Yes.
creator is doing what they do best. So that's certainly my encouragement.
Yeah, I love that. That is so true.
Awesome. Amazing. I think we are just about at time, but I really want to know this. So this is important to me.
Mhm.
Just on those, you guys have done so many great in-person activations, so many great events and things. How do you track all of that?
Well, with Tribe and Creator IQ, that's really what it is.
Okay. Okay.
Like every time we have an event, we're creating a campaign to track all of our metrics, EMV, engagement, reach, impressions. So it really ties back to like those things. This platform is definitely like our best friend in being able to see how it's performing from a data perspective. But then from a content perspective, if I see influencers that have thousands and millions of followers talking about our brand after coming to our event, I know that I did my job because I know that they absolutely loved what they came in the door for. They loved the product. They loved meeting the team. And so it's important to obviously create the experience, but it's also important to create a community and really be able to connect with these people in real life. Because if you invite all these influencers and they walk away not even knowing who your team is, like that's a huge opportunity that you just missed out on. So aside from being creative and curating these really super fun events, make sure that your team is in the room also doing the work and working the room themselves.
Amazing. Yeah. And when you're in person, you get to spill the tea. So that's
Yeah,
when you get to, really catch up
a little
and share with
kiki.
people exactly what's really going on inside. Well, awesome. Kaylah, thank you so much for joining me today. Um, for anyone that wants to unpack any more about this report, feel free to download this. It's the top influencer marketing trends of the 2020s so far. So we start off with 2020, where we were TikTok dancing, and we made it all the way up to 2024. So it's the beginning of the decade so far. So thank you all again for joining us today.
Thank you. This was so exciting.
Amazing. Thank you.
All right,
All
y'all.
right.
Have
We'll
a
talk
good
soon,
one.
everyone. Take care.